Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This has been a very informative summit, one of the best that I've attended. So thank you to B2B Expand for having us. My name is Rachel Wolfson. I'm a journalist for Forbes, and I'm also a co-host of the Bad Crypto podcast. And today's panel, we will be speaking about how blockchain games are adding value to the community. And I will let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves.
Hi guys, Pascal Jardé. I'm the CTO of Moonify, a startup based in the south of France that wants to help you monetize your game and content using blockchain mechanism.
Hi everyone, I'm Sébastien Borget, CEO and co-founder of Pixowl. We are building essentially a Minecraft on the blockchain. It's a decentralized, community-driven platform where creators can monetize and trade assets on the blockchain.
Hi, I'm Kim Cope. I am a product lead with Dapper Labs. We are the creators of CryptoKitties, and my focus is on how we can provide better access to blockchain through consumer applications.
Hi all, my name is Matthias. I'm from PapaEconomy. Our focus is in making. Our focus in making. Oh no, I'll come back. Continue.
Are you sure?
No, go ahead. Finish.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Patrick. I'm a lawyer by training. I focused on gaming and Bitcoin models for several years. The name of my company is Knabu. It stands for Ubank, U-B-A-N-K, spelled backwards. So we really are a crypto team based in London, and we're looking to solve the problem of banking for all of us as a crypto community. We've started our authorization process in the UK, and we just got approved for a Bitcoin payments model license last week.
Okay, we'll continue. So what we do, we are three Melchior business. One, we make analyze from the different games, analyze and take the games to model finance models. Second, we start to make teachings, and we start to make different tutorials to learn how to look to the games, not only as games, but it's financial products. We don't have games. Yes, we only looking. And consulting, this is the last thing that we do.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to start off the panel with a very basic question to give kind of everyone an overview. How are blockchain games providing value to gamers, to developers, to the gamers, and to investors?
I start. For me to answer this question, I think we have to perhaps think what is the state of mind of a gamer right now. Perhaps all of you are professional in the gaming industry, and I think we are all witnessing something that there is a shift in the state of mind of the gamer. What I mean is, until now, when you want to monetize your game, or when you want your community to contribute and pay for your game, or at least play the game, you have several ways to monetize it. Like, for example, they pay for it. It will be a free-to-play. They pay for in-app purchases. You can monetize it with advertisement, or you can perhaps give it them for free and use their personal data. But all of this right now is kind of perhaps rejected by the most of them. For example, the advertisement is now blocked by more than 30% of people on the earth. They are annoyed by advertisement, so no one wants them. And even you, perhaps, you don't want them because they are disturbing the gameplay. So when you know that, and with the personal data, of course, you all heard about the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica issue. So when you know that, how can blockchain perhaps bring something new in the way you have your relationship to your community? And there are many responses, and I will not give all of them, but the main thing is, I think blockchain can help you have a better relationship with your community because we give them value and you can give them a purpose to play your game. And blockchain can help to do that. So I will see with the rest of the panel what they think about it, but this is mainly one of the things I think blockchain can bring to the community.
Yeah, I think one thing that blockchain does, or the beauty behind blockchain, is really having a joint venture between your developers and the community. There's rules we set in place, particularly smart contracts, and deciding what the state is from the beginning, that through blockchain we cannot change. So it's really leveling that playing ground for gamers, but also allowing the community to shape how the game is going to take place. Really digging into what the community is asking for, seeing through the economics of the game, how it's changing, and seeing that adapt. Rather than traditional centralized servers or centralized systems where, you know what, something that we're doing is only interested by like a very niche audience of our gamers, but it's not bringing financial means, so we end up taking out that aspect and we alienate that small group, whereas blockchain kind of stops us from doing that.
Yes. I think the best way to summarize it for us doing blockchain game is that players are becoming stakeholders in the game, which means that they have a say on how the game can evolve through ownership of tokens that gives them a vote, a voice, so a vote in the future of the game. This is what we call governance in terms of a community, as well as having true ownership of the in-game assets, the content that is being tokenized, as we usually call them, non-fungible tokens. NFTs is becoming a common word in our industry, where the content is owned by the players and then can be traded, sold, exchanged, not only inside the game, but more interestingly, outside of the game, which really opens a whole ecosystem around it, whereas before centralized game were essentially closed ecosystem where the developer creates and defines the rules of that ecosystem, the economy, and also the scarcity of the content, not giving so much of a choice to the player who can only spend or leave the game as two options.
So just to sort of echo what you guys have been saying, for me, it's not just community and consensus, but as Pascal was saying, we've really seeing a shift. You know, I'm not a developer, but I'm a player. And when I started, it was a single purchase use game with a very proprietary environment. And now you're seeing, especially in 2018, a shift to open source models where we could interact more, we could understand the game mechanics more. Blockchain technology offers this type of visibility and transparency where we could really get more involved. We could get more involved in the voting mechanism and the game rules. I personally want to see how a game rewards me. You know, I want to interact. I want to share my content with other users. So I think the value there is really building not only that community, but it's a common value both for developers and for the users. And I think many developers, because some people ask me, how do I monetize that? Because they don't really understand if it's open source, how they could do that. I think for me, one aspect that can be done, which may be controversial, is my want and desire to be more creative in the game, to share more content, means that I'll be willing to pay for that data with my peers. And that is a source of monetization and value that I think can be very immediately created.
Okay, I want to say a small thing. Most of the thing, everything would say. We need to remember that the value need to be from one side from the gamer and from other side from the developer, and a balance economic systems. It's make it together and it's make a good game, and from another side, it's make a momentum that's make the game to continue and not to stop. Because if one of the thing it's don't work good, from one side. If the game system don't work good, or the players are not happy from the game, then the game will stop. And a good ecosystem it's give good value to the gamer and to the developer together. Okay.
I think one thing we didn't answer, I don't know if that was your real question, is in terms of the investors, how are they seeing value? I think obviously there is this secondary market of tokens where people want the upside of the token. And from where I sit, this is what investors are looking at. I think there are some unique investors who are very interested in the token economics of a particular model. I don't want to sort of preempt the conversation, but I think there are two types of investors. There are the investors who just want the upside of a token, if that's what it is. I think the investors who are traditional investors in games, who simply want an ROI, a traditional way in terms of equity. And then there are those who understand the relationship between cryptocurrencies and games and came in very early into the Bitcoin space. And they're definitely interested in game mechanisms that incentivize a behavior in a particular way, and they will be willing to devote resources to do that.
And I think we could, for example, take a concrete example of how could be a good relationship between the gamers and the developers. At Moonify, we are right now creating a game as a showcase. It's a puzzle game, and everyone can create a level. Imagine in a non-decentralized world, I would like to reward the gamers for creating levels for my game. They're creating content for me, so I would like to pay them. And with real money. And it will be very complex to do so because I need to have a KYC, I need to have all information about them, and there is clearly some legal stuff, a little bit complex, etc., etc. But imagine that now the game is on the blockchain. So you create the level of the game, it's an item, and this item is unique, there is an owner, and each time this game is played by someone, so they spend a license to play it, and each time they pay a license to play it, a piece of this payment goes directly to the owner. I created a relationship to reward my gamer. Thanks to them, my content is going bigger, and I'm rewarding them with some values outside my game. So this is clearly one example of how blockchain can completely disrupt the relationship we have between gamers and developers.
Right, thanks. Those are great answers. So clearly, blockchain is all about community, and blockchain games are really showing the value for that. Gabrielle, you mentioned something about data, so maybe we can kind of go deeper into that about how blockchain games are really bringing a community aspect to data sharing as opposed to just companies taking your data and using it without consent?
Okay, a little bit of a loaded question. From where I sit, I'm not a game developer. I'm a user, and our business is to try to create more liquidity for the crypto community. The reason I'm saying that is because our project as a bank is built upon a game incentivization mechanism where community gets more involved. And I think it really directly correlates to the gaming environment where I think as time has elapsed, and I think this is Pascal's point, the gamers are not as involved as they could be with blockchain technology, and that to me is the core proposition. The ability to have a very highly liquid digital asset environment that could be highly traded, which incentivizes gamers to share their data, to build a community. And who would not want that? I want to be involved in the process because games are for fun. That's why we play the games, right? So you do want to have an environment where you could build a community, to me, in a very relatively short period of time, I think, as CryptoKitties has done. And blockchain technology just allows a platform to sort of escalate that community build process.
We talk about the data. Everything is exposed. So if for example, I give you my, I'm gamer too, yeah? But if I give you my address, you can see all the games that I have, all the assets that I have, and you can see everything. So it's nothing secret, as was before. Everything is exposed. And I think that it's a great value to the games and to community. And it's allowed to make better games. So, and to focus, another thing in marketing, it's focus exactly to the people that use the game. This is another benefit.
I'd like to bring a point. Like our experience as companies, we've been building user-generated content games for the past 7 years. And thanks to that, we have a large community of creators who've been making something around 70 million assets to date on a mobile product, where unfortunately all this content, well, the beauty of it is all this content was created for free without any reward for the time or involvement to those creators other than just the fame of being the creators and having a profile page. And being able now, thanks to the blockchain, to not only reward them through microtransaction and the use of cryptocurrency, but also having the transparency of the blockchain to show that their assets are their own and they can be sold n times. So the scarcity, I think, is the fact that the scarcity is written on the blockchain and not a single one more copy of their creation can be sold is something really important, and that will bring is an important data that will help the ecosystem and more creators and more use overall.
Right, and that kind of leads me to my next question about non-fungible tokens, which that has been a great topic of interest here. What are the value that that's bringing to gamers, developers, and investors?
I can start. Yes. Let me ask, who is familiar in the audience with a non-fungible token, NFTs? All right, so we don't need to define it, I think, like everyone in the audience is familiar, great. So I think one of the essential aspects of non-fungible token is they are transcending the initial utility or purpose that the game developers have defined for them in a game. And so they can be leveraged cross-games, cross-chain, cross-platform to be utilized by other game developers to create new experience. So essentially, you have content that is either made by a single company or by players, and that can be reutilized many times by other developers to create new sort of experience that will go much beyond their initial intent. That alone is very powerful because it gives a longer lifetime to the items and potentially a much higher value in terms of utility, which some people, either players or investors, are looking for in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with CryptoKitties, it's something we obviously see with Kittyverse. I think within the first, the first 3 weeks of us launching CryptoKitties, there was 3 different teams that came outside, small teams that started building experiences based off those assets. And today we have about 50 teams that are building other games, other experiences just off those NFTs. So it provides so much value back to the consumer and the user of what else I can do with that game and or with that asset. And it also actually brings in new users who maybe with something like CryptoKitties, a very specific strategic game, it brings in a new user who might be more interested in something like a racing game.
I'll just shortly add to that by saying that, again, I remember when, games started to be very popular and it wasn't admired if you talked about somebody else's platform. You needed to dominate that particular game model. And now you're seeing cross-collaboration where people are happy to talk about third-party applications. People are happy to build upon other games. And to me, again, this is the true utility, to have that highly tradable in-game asset environment where you could literally unpack and deploy a number of NFTs in any platform. I think it will necessarily cause companies to collaborate and teams to collaborate in a way that we just haven't seen before.
I want to say it's very important, the collaboration between the teams. Today was a presentation about a group of developers that come together.
Blockchain Game Alliance.
Yeah, the alliance. It's very important. For example, I'm looking as the gamers. If a gamer buy a fighter or a cat, and the system, the program itself finished the work because the developer decided to leave the project, then he maybe can use it with another platform. So, and it's really a how it's called. It's really true ownership to use it in another platform, because if you have it only in one platform, sorry, then it's really ownership, but it gets lost. So it's very important, the alliance.
Right. Well, I also think we can kind of elaborate on how blockchain games are really allowing true ownership of digital assets. Did you guys want to talk about that briefly?
Well, in our case, it's even more obvious because the content is made by the players themselves. So, in our platform, we provide a 3D editor, a voxel editor, where voxel being like digital Legos, where they can build block by block whatever they like, let's say a Eiffel Tower or a car. And just the mere fact that it's been made by them, crafted by them, is already a sense of ownership. Now, even more, whether as a creator or whether I bought this content on any NFT marketplace, the fact that I can take it out of the game, the fact that if the game dies, but I still own my item and it still holds the value and could be resold, etc., I think it's literally like, it's even more ownership than owning a house in some countries or things of the real world.
I think it's the public record of it. It's the fact that I've purchased it, I've owned it, and it's out there for everyone to see. That with CryptoKitties and creating the ERC 721, we just looked at what was out there and realized that there was no standard for this. So we actually just put this up in Ethereum repo, made a whole bunch of suggestions about how we should think it would go, got a lot of support from the community, and now it's turned into a standard that multiple companies have come out of. So I think it's the true nature of blockchain that enables you to have that true ownership.
I was just about to say, I totally agree with Kim. And also, the ownership, again, to me, is a core foundational element to have that liquid environment. So to sort of transpose that into, my financial services world, one of the key questions the regulators ask us is, how are you going to determine that there's not illicit activity going on there, that there's no theft? And you could just say, well, look, the ownership is easily provable, it's easily trackable, and that allows for an entire layer of business models, so not just gaming. I think this is what I want to really communicate to everyone here. We're here in a gaming environment, and I think one of the things you were asking about was just chatting about was how does this blockchain gaming ecosystem impact a wider gaming ecosystem? And my personal view is it not just impacts the gaming ecosystem, but the ecosystem as a whole. It's a very core foundational piece of technology that proves provenance of digital assets of all varieties. It's not just gaming. You could virtually tokenize any type of digital asset and trade it. And that to me is a very, very core proposition that I think sometimes people don't truly appreciate.
Right, and that's beneficial for the entire, like for gamers, developers, for investors as well.
It's often said that gaming leads the way for adoption of technology, and I think here once again through blockchain it's true.
Right.
Even just touching on that, I think gaming, we've seen this with VR and AR and all other different forms of technology. Until we create experiences that someone can actually experience themselves, or something at least entertaining or educational, and that provides this unique experience for someone, do you actually truly understand what the technology is?
Right, definitely. And I think that's a good point, because a lot of the times, or you're seeing more often now, that blockchain games are being applied to the real world. So for instance, during the World Cup, there were a number of blockchain games that came out catered for the World Cup. Did you care to comment on that, how blockchain games are being applied to the real world at all?
Yeah, I'll just jump in there. So again, with our model, we're trying to re-engineer a bank that fits in today's climate. The entire bank structure is based upon game incentivization. Incentivizing good behavior, punishing bad behavior, using blockchain technology and distributed systems to eliminate inefficiencies and create more efficiencies in an environment where you need to transfer value in a very quick and cheap way. And I just wanted to say with CryptoKitties, and we were chatting about this before, when I first heard about CryptoKitties, I was very annoyed. My CTO, he kept talking about it every day. I said, why do you keep talking to me about these cats? That's like stupid. Until I actually looked at CryptoKitties and I understood how special it is that you could have this limited edition crypto asset that could be traded. I mean, you could talk a little bit more about it, but it is really quite exceptional that you could leverage the benefits of blockchain technology in a real world in a way where people don't even appreciate the mechanics of it. They just see it as a very fun experience, but very valuable.
When we talk about how the games are going to be in the real world, we can only to think and to imagine how it's going to be 20 years from here. I'm not able to imagine, but I'm sure that all the games will be blockchains, and there are a lot of big games that right now are thinking to pass from regular games to blockchain. I read today in Forbes, I think, that there is something about this, but I don't want to say the name of the company. But everything think how to pass to blockchains.
I think the underlying thing about what's coming next for blockchain game is to just put blockchain in parentheses and just consider it's just the natural evolution of games to provide the economic system and ownership that's just we can be found in any other industry and ecosystem elsewhere.
Right. And so in terms of the future, what do you think are the challenges that we need to overcome in order to get better implementation of blockchain games out there? And even with funding, I mean, like ICOs are kind of dying right now. How is the future looking for blockchain games?
Yeah, when you talk about funding, we all start to think about ICOs, like you said, with all the controversial aspects of it. But I think Alto, for example, gave an example this morning about the initial item offering. So definitely the fact that you can extract piece of the game, make them unique, even before the game is even developed or released. So that means you can start creating values to your game and creating values through the community, even creating the game, and start to explain to the early adopters that they will have some very unique items, and in exchange they give us a little bit of money for us to be able to develop the game. So I know there is a lot of controversial stuff about this because we could imagine that most of the studios will not finish the game or not even started, but at least it's a disruptive way to think about funding it. It's like Kickstarter without Kickstarter. Blockchain is exactly that. You eliminate third parties. So if you can imagine funding the game without Kickstarter, but having the same trust you have on their platform, but reducing or completely remove the fees. And if I do a transposition, it's also the second step after releasing the game is publishing it. If you want to publish it today, you have to give 30% to your revenues to Apple, to Google, or Steam. So definitely blockchain can disrupt every part of the step from thinking about a game to releasing it and publishing it. So yeah, so definitely everything because of this we're going to change.
To bounce back a little bit, so yes, of course, the market is quite bearish and there's ICO, but we can make a lot of comparison with, again, existing things like pre-sales of items before a game is live is like a Kickstarter, crowdfunding campaigns. We also can see like things like SAFT, where people are investing in the future value of the token because they believe you're building a game that will drive enough value and use for this token. And I'm sure people will come with other models as well. What I like to envision is more how NFTs, we are just basically trading them is just one simple use case of using them. The second layer, programmability, which is a term used in the industry, allows many more things. Like we can imagine that those NFTs can be, instead of owned, they can be rented or leased for a short time and the revenue can be generated from them. Little bit like Airbnb or car sharing models. We can imagine extensibility or interoperability where the single fact you own a specific NFT will grant you access right permissions into other games. We can use them for user acquisition, either on one side airdropping them to specific users, or on the other side targeting special owners, like big whales, for example, who've bought for hundreds of Ether of tokens, to see, oh yeah, I want to acquire those players, I want to target those players for my games. And if you look at the ecosystem of blockchain gaming, it's merely hundreds of companies, maybe 1,000 of them, whereas in gaming, it's millions of companies. So there's still a lot to build to make this industry more broader, bigger, and create mass adoption with millions of players.
Yeah, I think just adding to it, the main two challenges that I see, or what I focus on a lot of, is user experience and payments. I think it was mentioned multiple times today, someone needs to build a better MetaMask, or we need to stop trying to explain gas as gas, or like we need to focus on educating the users in a way that's fun, and in a way that makes sense. And I think you'll see a lot more infrastructure and tools that will start to be built so that gamers can focus on building games. I think highlighting, as you mentioned, highlighting blockchain as the first thing should not be what your focus is on. Your focus is on building the best game possible. Blockchain should just be that underlying surface of how you actually go about it. And then the second aspect being payments. I think payments in general are just very complicated. I'm trying to play a game and then I have to all of a sudden get a wallet and I have to go to another site and I have to get Ether. I don't even know what Ether is, or I'm using an entirely different token for a game and I don't know what that token will translate to if I go and try and can I sell it on exchange? So there's a lot of these questions that happen with the consumer right away. So I think it's almost not the game or the game's job to come up with that, or the developers to come up with that. It's going to be the tools and the infrastructure around it that users need to focus, or that other companies need to focus on.
We need hyper-casualization of blockchain games, basically.
Yeah, in fact, blockchain will be cool when no one will talk about blockchain anymore. Yeah. And this is the main challenge, because when you moved your assets from a dedicated server to the cloud, okay, your gamers don't care. In fact, we really don't care about that. So yeah, when the blockchain will be completely invisible, it will be very cool.
A few days ago, I was at home and my kid that it's 9-year-old told me, I want to play this game. I told him, no, I'm sorry. You cannot play this game. I talk about blockchain game, yes. But I hope that one day all the games will be blockchains and it will be even my kids or my grandsons will able to play with the games. Second, I think that there are games that have good economic systems, but there are games that need to improve the economic systems. And if we make game, for example, there is this Decentraland, that they want to make a world of that have own economic system. This world need to work alone, okay, without someone that pushes all the time. This is what I think.
I'm not sure about the kids. I mean, if they can play to the blockchain and empty your wallet completely, I mean, yes. It could be
my wallet is empty, so I don't need to worry. No, but what Kim say, today it's very hard to play, and blockchain is the technology, like 10 years ago, we have phones that we're not able to use them for nothing, only to talk. Today we don't talk, we use them for everything. So it's evolution. It's thing that's going to be changed, and you are developers, I'm sure that you're thinking about it.
Just to echo what everyone has said, I mean, I totally agree. I think that blockchain should be invisible reals. With respect to ICOs, you know, it's slow at this time, but I don't believe that ICOs are going away. It may surprise people to know that state agencies have approached us to do their own ICO. So, you know, this is a conversation that's happening at a very high level. This is not something that is, I think, still considered illegitimate. It's just the established entities don't want the smaller entities to know that they are considering it.
Right. Wonderful. Well, we have a few minutes, so I'm wondering if anybody from the audience has any questions for us, if that's okay. Can we take some questions? Does anybody have any questions?
All was clear.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Of everyone sitting here, who's actually implemented blockchain technology as we sit here today? Anyone? Okay, a few people. I was just curious.
How about we use the last few minutes just to talk real quick about the role of cryptocurrency in all of this? I know we kind of touched on it, but maybe a little bit deeper.
As we are building a blockchain game platform, we've taken the decision to have our own cryptocurrency, which I think goes a little bit against the current stream of most blockchain games, which just rely on Ethereum. Main reason behind this choice was we wanted to be in control of how the currency is going to be mint and the total amount of currency in the system. So we're not just fully dependent on how this cryptocurrency can be traded or used by others. So, well, I'm happy to discuss that choice with you if you like. We'll see.
I think like you guys have actually defined the economics around it for why it makes sense. I think a lot of the times we hear about games creating new tokens without actually enough thought or input beyond just the ICO. So what that token is actually going to do for your users. So I'd put that back to the developers to ask, really. And that's something we went with at CryptoKitties, was really that mindset of, do we need a token for this? Could we just use Ethereum? Of course, with Ethereum, we're completely susceptible to how up and down it goes. And it definitely affects gameplay. So that's something to take into effect. We're seeing so many stablecoins coming out as well. So I think we're going to start to see a trend of people being able to switch between stablecoins. I'm curious to see if any games will come out that focus just on those stablecoins.
And very quickly, there is a banned way to integrate cryptocurrency in your game. For example, at Moonify, we make your audience, if they're okay with this, mine cryptocurrency. And so, in fact, yeah, the computational power is used as an additional streaming revenue for you with their consent. So it's another way to bend it and not integrating cryptocurrency inside of it, but one of the mechanisms of the cryptocurrency.
I think I just want to add that I really feel that we are at the beginning of a shift. I think people forget that Bitcoin itself only really became popular in 2012. We're in 2018. It's really not a long time since that has passed. And you know, Bitcoin, people also don't view that as I view it, that Bitcoin was actually an initial ICO. It may not have been deployed by a central party, but it was an initial coin offering. So I think in a relatively short period of time, you're seeing an evolution where there are game and other models being built upon cryptocurrencies and decentralized mechanisms. And we've heard today about different utility tokens and security tokens and payment tokens. I think we do need to give ourselves enough time to sort of devise and evolve our models. I think in a lot of ways people are critical of the technology because they have so many unanswered questions, but it really has evolved in a very, very short period of time.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you for everyone for joining us. Thanks.